Okay, welcome back to the channel. I hope everyone is doing well today. So rumors are Josh Taylor is going to ditch the Catterall fight and fight Teofimo Lopez in Edinburgh, possibly at the end of March, beginning of end of May, excuse me. It's actually a really good fight. It's probably a better fight. It's definitely a bigger fight. You got a feel for Jack Culcher in the situations, you know, because like if you remember, he took step aside money to, I think it was to allow the Ramirez fight, and obviously like Jack Culcher beat Josh Taylor. You know, I didn't see it as a robbery personally, but like Jack Culcher, I thought he won that fight. You know, he was a clear winner. He let me down a little bit in the last 2 or 3 rounds where I really wanted him to go for it a bit more, because you know, as unfortunately when the system is set up the way it is, it's not right. But yeah, you do have to rip the belts from the champions, whether you agree with that or not. That's kind of, it's known. You know, if you're going into the back garden of your opponent, you have to do a little bit more. It's whether it's wrong or right, it is what it is. And you know, Jack Culcher had that fight in the palm of his hands, and I think he could have done a lot more in the last couple of rounds. But anyway, be that as it may, Josh Taylor pulled out with an injury, supposedly, and you know, then the fight got rescheduled, then it got called off. It's just been a mess, really. And now it looks like Josh Taylor's going to be fighting Teofimo Lopez. We'll look out for that announcement when it comes. But I mean, look, if it's for much more money, can you really blame Josh Taylor? You know, if you were in that position, I mean, look, he's obviously got a few more years left in his career, but these guys are superhuman beings, and they're put in this position where they're fighting for their lives, you know. And if a massive payday comes along, it's a huge fight. They'll be on pay-per-view in Scotland. You'll get the American market. That's a huge fight. Josh Taylor, I think he's only got 1 belt now at 140, but you know, I don't blame him, really. Not saying I don't know if I would do it or not. I probably would. If you're getting a massive payday dangled in front of you, and you know what these guys go through, it is what it is, I guess. You know, Jack Culcher, I do feel for him a lot, because you know, he fought a great fight, really, aside from the last couple of rounds for me. And you know, he put a great performance in. He came up short on the judges. It was unfair. He should be the undisputed champion. He should have that. And you know, it's a brutal sport, and now he's getting you know, the wrong end of the stick on this one again. And not just that, but like moving forward, Jack Culcher is always going to have an issue getting fights anyway, because of his style. You know, he's very crafty. He knows what he's doing in that ring, and he's a promoter's nightmare, because he can you know, not stink fights out, but he can spoil fights because of his skill and his ability and his craftiness and his you know, he's a cunning fighter. So it's not like people are going to be queuing up to fight him, especially after the performance he just put in. So 140 is a loaded division, and you know, there's a lot of people that on the come up there, you know. So unless like a fight gets ordered, I can't see a lot of the top guys wanting to really get in there with Culcher. Not just because they don't want to fight him, because he doesn't bring, I guess he's a bigger name now due to the controversy, but like, it's not like a marquee name, you know. So I do feel for him. He's got one of those styles, you know, like tricky southpaws. Andrade comes to mind, where it's really hard to get fights, because you know, it's not easy to look good against these guys, let alone beat them, you know. So promoters understand this, fighters understand this, and it's part of the business, you know. But onto the Teo fight, both guys are pretty spiteful guys, you know. Like Josh Taylor's a spiteful, mean dude, not just like in the ring. He just seems like a nasty dude. Not in a bad way. I'm just mean like in a personality. I think there's a nasty streak in him, and when you put that in the ring, and Teo as well, you know, there's a lot of spite between these two dudes. The build-up will be pretty great, and the fight should be really good too. You know, like Teo is, you know, mentally very fragile right now. You know, I do worry about somebody like him at this stage of his career taking a fight like this, because of, you know, well, what his utter delusion after losing to Kambosos. He still hasn't come to terms with that, I don't think. He still hasn't acknowledged or still given, you know, Kambosos any credit or any respect for actually doing that or beating him. And if you can't face up to your you know, your downfall, your shortcomings, like a man, you know, like you would just be like, all right, I got beat by a better man. Let me go back to the drawing board and better myself, because he really hasn't been the same since. You know, he put an absolutely magnificent performance in against Lomachenko, which Joey Gamache was in his corner, masterminded the game plan for that, and he really stuck to the game plan and executed it against one of the best fighters at the time. Brilliant performance. But, you know, he needs structure, Tio, you know, and his dad, we all know his dad is a nightmare. They are just throwing him so much delusion, and it's not healthy. And, you know, after the Sandor Martin won, he questioned whether he still had it, which was alarming to hear, you know, a world level fighter say something like that. And, you know, I think his dad is just perpetuating, you know, this delusion and just, I don't know, it's not good to be going into, if you know, if the fight gets made, assuming it does, to be going into fighting for another world title against a very, very, very good fighter. Josh Taylor's very good. He has, you know, let's be honest, like, it seems like Taylor does have an issue with southpaws. I mean, obviously he had an issue with Catterall. Who knows? There's a lot of talks about the weight. I'll still say this. I said it at the time. I said Josh Taylor at the time was asked, how is the weight for you? And he said it's a piece of piss. And he said he could get down to lightweight. And he sounded like he really meant it. So I'm like, I don't think the weight's an issue. He has a very gaunt, gangly look about him anyway. And some fighters, not everybody, because they look a little rough at the weigh-in, certainly it doesn't always mean that, you know, it's just their body type. And I don't know. I get he didn't look amazing, but him saying he was fine at the weight led me to believe I think he's fine at the weight. And if this fight's at 140, I think, you know, it's a great matchup. But, you know, stylistically, it makes for a good fight. I think, you know, like I say, Prograis obviously had a lot of success with against Taylor as well, another southpaw. You could say, well, these are just very good fighters, maybe, but perhaps something in camp isn't quite ticking with the southpaws they're bringing in for sparring. I don't know. I'm just speculating, but I love this fight. It's a good fight, and it's an important fight for Tio, because if he were to take a loss here, he knows what he's going into after seeing Catterall, so he's going to have to come in and obviously do more. That's what you have to do. But is he going to come for the knockout? Probably. Tio's a big power puncher, and there's going to be a lot of animosity in the lead up. I know they've had words in the past. I know they've had a lot of back and forths, and it's not going to take much for these guys to get going against each other, you know, because there's a general dislike there. And like I said, they're both very spiteful. Tio seems like a bit more of a charming character out of the ring. He can be, but I know he's got his level of delusion, but I just think that comes mostly from his old man. But nonetheless, I hope this fight gets made. I do feel for Jack Culcher. I hope he can get some sort of significant fight and get his career ticking again, because he can do some damage in that 140 division. I really think he's going to give a lot of people problems. But hopefully he can get a fight. But for now, those are my thoughts. I think it's a really good fight. It's a big fight. Hopefully it gets made. And, you know, like I said, the boxing business is brutal, and sometimes you can't really blame fighters if, like, they're getting paid 2-3 times more than what they were to fight with someone that they just lost to. Not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying I understand it. It is what it is. But let me know your thoughts if you have any, and, you know, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Loads of videos coming. I'm out of here. Have a good week.